Okay, we'll go ahead and get started for this morning, for this afternoon session. And Rocky, welcome. It's you right now and us to walk through this. But welcome to the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Data Entry Coordinator Community of Practice. This is a peer learning, shared learning space, all about learning and continuous improvement tied to program outcomes specific to the role of our data entry coordinator. So glad to have you with us, and we'll go ahead and move. This session is being recorded, just so you're aware, and I think you got that notice when you logged in. And in the future, that'll be made available through our community of practice on the learning management system. We'll be posting the recording there for future reference. Today is about clarity, really getting understanding of your role, your systems, and how those directly impact the outcomes. We're going to start with just some welcome and introductions. Then we're going to shift into the DEC role and its impact that it has across the network, how data flows across these systems, and some common challenges, a chance just to call out as you're getting started, some common challenges that we have. And then we're going to then end up with a chance for live Q&A. So if you've got some burning questions, this will be our chance to ask those. We do encourage you to always come to every community with a question in mind, or some as a chance to help get those answered. So as we're covering through the content, feel free to take notes, and we'll come back and get those at the end as well. You can always post in chat. Thank you, Rocky, for going ahead and posting in. Anyone else that's joined, if you would just go ahead and add your name, your location of the grant, and the role that you perform for the grant into the chat. We'd appreciate that. So this slide is really getting us to start to think about our community of practice, but I'm just going to pause just for a second. On the call today with us, co-presenting, you have an excellent resource. Dan Martinez is with us, and Dan, I'll let you just come off and reintroduce yourself. I know everybody knows who you are. I think they do, at least.
Well, you never know. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Martinez. I'm the senior program manager, but I have functioned as programmatic grant manager, working very closely with data entry coordinators from all of the grantees in previous years. And I really appreciate everyone's time in joining this. One of the things that we really strive for, since this is a performance-based grant, is excellence in our data, and so we're looking forward to helping you help your organizations achieve those goals. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And Dan just brings a wealth of experience, as well as the leadership role here in our pre-apprenticeship program. So we're lucky to have him join and be a part of today. So this slide that I'm on now really speaks to that this is not just training that we're covering today, right? This isn't about just providing it one way. It's really a working session is how we want you to think of these communities. And it's about how we improve and operate across our program. So how do we learn from each other? How do we solve real challenges? We want this to really keep it real and focus on the practical challenges. We want to share best practices with each other, and then build consistency, where we see those best practices, really leverage them across the network. So be curious in our sessions as we get started. Our learning objectives for the content and the topics and what we discuss, by the end of this session, we want you to be able to describe the role of the data entry coordinator in performance and compliance outcomes. We want you to be able to identify the key Illinois Works systems, explain the data life cycle, so navigate workflows, and avoid common errors that people experience with the role of the data entry coordinator. So again, if you haven't already, please go ahead and share your name, your organization, and your level of experience with IWRS. So I can see Rocky and Brittany. I know Brittany's one of my grantees I coach. I know this is your first year, you're just getting started. But if you'd share your experience level with IWRS, that would be great too. Just curious how much interaction you guys have had with the IWRS system. So go ahead and just go to chat and then post that right into the chat feature. All right. So I don't know if we're having a problem with chat or it's on my end of just being able to see it, but we'd like to hear from your organization as far as your experience level with IWRS as well. And Carlita, let's go to slide 8, the role of the data entry coordinator. Go ahead and skip over that, yeah, Mentimeter. They'll come back to that Mentimeter at the end. So the role of the data entry coordinator. The data entry coordinator role is really a bridge between our operations and our outcomes. I know when I coach grantees, I talk about that there's two things you do. You know, prepare students, get them into registered apprenticeship programs, but we also produce documentation and track that through IWRS. And both of those roles are equally as important. I know we think real hard about the student, but the outcomes and how we track that are critical as well. So data accuracy, ensuring that all entries into IWRS are correct and complete is just essential. It's you know, it's hard to make decisions and understand outcomes if we don't have accurate data. It's also it impacts cash flow and access to dollars within the grant. So that data accuracy is essential. The system entry and validation, and I want to hit on that. It's not only just about entering data, because sometimes in smaller grants, the data entry coordinator may be the one doing the entry. You also then need to engage somebody else that can do the validation, because there's two aspects. It's data entry and validation, and there always should be somebody validating, and it can't be that we just check our own work, right? We need someone else. So it's verifying that the data in the system is accurate, and no one's perfect, and that's why there's validation. Reporting and support. Again, supporting compliance reviews, pulling data for the program administrator to help make good decisions based on, and for reporting our performance-based payment reporting, that's essential. Compliance alignment. The role of the data entry coordinator is essential in maintaining alignment with grant agreement and the work plan requirements, and showing that what's being done and how it complies with the work plan requirements is essential. And then it's also a supportive service tracking component, really tracking the use of the different wraparound and student support services and activities that are career services, being completed. So it's really a bridge between operations, the outcomes, and the the actual data that's produced. So you're kind of helping us get access to that. So it's an essential role of the program, and that's why there's this community, is to provide a space for you to be able to connect and learn. Go to the next slide. So why it matters again, I hit on this a little bit. It really is about driving funding. Reimbursements are tied to accurate data. In a performance-based grant, your data really determines what gets recognized and what gets funded. So data entry essential to outcomes. Impacts on compliance, I covered that. Compliance ratings and monthly reporting depends on data quality. Even if you did the work, if it's not accurately captured within IWRS, what gets reported on is what gets captured in IWRS. So it's essential to impacting compliance. Participant tracking ensures proper tracking of all the participants, so that we can follow up with our students, so we can stay in touch with them. Also, it's about decision making, enabling data entry driven program decisions, so that we can see how we're doing, how we're performing as a grant. So lots of key roles. The data life cycle overview here, this slide is, I want you just to step back and think of your role in data as a data entry coordinator as bigger than just the role itself too. It's that it's a connector in owning this integrity of the entire life cycle. While different other staff roles may focus within one specific area. So if we think about our outreach coordinators, and where they play a role within the life cycle, it's their role touches just a few of these. Where we think about wraparound services the same, or transition service coordinator, but your role impacts all of these, and it really is about ensuring the integrity of the entire life cycle. So you need to know and understand the different outcomes and what's being done, and making sure that all the way from application to transition, that there's good quality integrity of the data that's captured and produced. So it's not just a data entry, like a person. It's somebody that really ensures that integrity. It's a higher level role, is the intent around this, really ensuring that integrity and the validity and validation of the data, and not just doing the data alone. Okay, next slide. So, from a systems overview, I want you to also understand that IWRS is definitely the primary system of record, okay? And it was developed in partnership with the Center of Workforce Development at Southern Illinois University. And we work with them to make changes and continually help keep it up to date and functioning well. But it doesn't by itself operate alone. It's actually what's captured and tracked into the IWRS is also maybe not directly linked, but also is used in other systems as well. So there's the CPMP, the Career Pathway Management Platform, that tracks career pathways and postgraduate outcomes, uses the data that's captured in IWRS, and the LMS, as to who is doing what, and are the staff being trained appropriately, as captured in the learning management system. So there's multiple systems, and the data entry coordinator doesn't necessarily touch these others, but they interact with the data and content that's captured in IWRS. The next slide. So, from an IWRS deep dive, and again, that's the Illinois Works reporting system. It's the primary system of record. So, where do we go to find out if something is accurate? We go to the primary system of record, which is IWRS. It's a custom, again, database. It's the single source of truth. There always has to be one source of truth, and IWRS is that for your grant. Participant tracking, as far as tracking participant leads, pre-screen assessments, applications, enrollment, attendance, progress, certifications, and outcomes through the pre-apprenticeship life cycle, that is done in IWRS, all of those pieces. Compliance verification, again, it supports a monthly compliance review. I know for Sending Knowledge, this is your first year as a Track 3 grantee. This monthly reports will determine, again, payments and support decisions about the grant. Well, the Illinois, the IWRS is used again to pull that data. Data for those reports is pulled from IWRS. So it's directly tied to our monthly compliance reports that are generated and used to fill in and contribute to the payment worksheets that are submitted for reimbursement as well. And supportive services, as far as tracking wraparound services, utilization, student support services are being provided. Career surveys are being completed. That's tracked in IWRS. So if it's not in IWRS, it didn't happen. And so that's just a good way to think about it from a compliance standpoint. This real quickly, touch on the career pathway management platform. This tracks postgraduate career pathways and transition outcomes. It's updated via active tracking questionnaire and completed quarterly after graduation. It's an integral part for the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program longitudinal studies, but it's used by Illinois Works Career Services for follow-up. So it really helps leadership interpret the data that you enter. It helps know the outcomes of the program and track that this through CPMP. The LMS is another tool that we're using for the community, actually. So we'll go over to the next slide. And it's about giving access to collaborations, which collaborations are like a discussion thread that where it's a chance for you to ask questions within your community and learn from each other and beyond these WebExes that we do. It also provides other content access from tracking future like instructor certifications and things like that. It provides input into that as we start putting more self-based learning out there. It's really a resource hub for recordings, webinar recordings. Again, this year, just want to reiterate, after today's session, all registrations for all PD events will be done through the partner guide, not through the LMS, so through the partner guide. But access to recordings for the community will be on the community, in the community LMS. So that way they're targeted to those that attend the specific communities. It also supports onboarding, regional meetings, annual conference content. It's going to do that more as we get further into the LMS as far as providing content and access going forward. So how these systems connect, we train staff via the LMS, data is entered into the IWRS, career outcomes are tracked in the CPMP. And together, the systems tell that full story of program success. They all kind of connect. All right. So this next, I'm going to go ahead and take my step back for a minute and let Dan kind of bring us home with our community today. So Dan.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so let's talk about the overall data management process. And actually, I want to point out the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It mentions the 2026 Grantee Manual, Section 10. That entire section is devoted to data quality management. That is what the data entry coordinator should should really know backwards and forwards. And hopefully, it also conveys the importance of the role. Jeff has gone through several of the topics of why the role matters, and this is a performance-based grant, so it is very heavily data involved in a lot of ways, not just in from the grant perspective, from the grantee perspective, but from our office, from the state legislature's perspective, from community reporting perspectives. All of our data flows to all of these areas. So, and it all starts with your data entry specialist, with you as a data entry coordinator validating that data. It all starts there. So looking at that process, we have data collection, right? That's gathering participant information, the attendance, the Illinois Works attendance rosters, having them filled out correctly, using the proper commitment agreements in your from the 2026 grantee manual, using the proper wraparound service assessment forms from the 2026 grantee manuals, and having the participants fill those out when it needs to be signed and dated accurately. That data collection is the genesis, right? That's where this all starts, and so we need to make sure that we're doing that correctly. And from there, and this one should, I don't know which of these numbers or circles should be bigger, but the number 2, the data entry, that's where that collected data gets entered into IWRS. The grantee manual refers to it as in real time, which we've talked about in other trainings before. That can be the same day, the end of the day, but typically not more than the end of the week. That data needs to be constantly entered and accurately entered, and then we move into quality control, and that's really where then the data entry coordinator takes over and validates those data's those entries for accuracy, for completeness. Um, Sometimes it's as simple as our commitment agreements are 2 pages, and often it's a front and back to it, and the participants sign on the second page. At the bottom, there's a spot for the participant to print their name and sign their name and put the date, and then the grantee needs a representative to do the same, and then that gets scanned as a PDF and uploaded into IWRS. Um, I've seen many times just the front page gets scanned, and um, that's a quality control issue that could have been caught early on by a data entry coordinator that was checking. And when I say the front, only the front page, I mean for every single participant in the entire cohort. Like, they were all done wrong, right? None of them were the complete commitment agreements. And so if it had been checked just once, it would have been flagged by the data entry coordinator. And sometimes they're scanned in upside down. And there's make sure that they're right side up. All of that adds to a more complete and faster compliance review by your grant manager. So ensuring you have that quality control is extremely important. And then we're able to generate reliable and accurate reports for not only for you as part of your operations, but certainly with part of compliance. We cannot stress that enough. That's the first stop for all of this data is your monthly compliance. And as Jeff said, why does this matter? That drives your compliance score. Your compliance score determines whether or not you're invited to renew and participate in the grant in 2027. It determines the financial uh, reimbursement maximum. So it's a performance-based grant, reimbursement grant. So you can have approved allowable expenses, but unless you have the performance to match that, those funds cannot be paid out. And that is directly a result of what is in IWRS and the compliance review. Um, but then, like I said, we publicize reports on a quarterly basis to a review panel made up of industry stakeholders, state legislators. That information gets reported back to the state legislature. So um, all of this data is extremely important. We also use it for our 10-year longitudinal studies. Right? This is information that we're capturing for the long term. So, sorry, I there it is so integral for what we're doing that I could go on and on about just this one topic. But let's talk a little bit on the next slide about some common uh, you know errors that we wind up seeing in some of the data entry. Missing attendance data. So this one is so important. We actually, for those of you that are new, back in, was it 2024, we held a mandatory full grantee network meeting with our deputy director, Dr. Ruano, and re-implemented the attendance roster requirements. They already existed, but we issued new guidance. We issued a new job aid. It's all actually part of the 2026 grantee manual. We've included it in the 2026 grantee manual, those job aids that were created for that point, to ensure that that initial capturing of attendance is correct, so that then it can be entered correctly into IWRS. And again, it is everything stems from that. It determines whether or not an individual is considered an Illinois Works graduate, right? They have to attend. Uh, is it 80%? I forget the exact number. I think they have to have an 80% attendance on every training module. So not an overall score, of course. math being what it is. If you attend 80% of each module, it's going to be 80% of the overall hours, but it's on a per module basis. They have to have that attendance level to be an Illinois Works graduate. And again, this is a statewide Illinois Works program that determines whether, if a contractor hires that individual, if they're a graduate, that means that they can be compliant with the apprenticeship initiative requirements that require uh, contractors to use apprenticeship hours on their on the labor hours of state funded capital grants or capital improvement projects. Um, it determines whether or not contractors can earn bid credits. So beyond the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, uh, that attendance data follows an individual so far, and that goes without even talking about the stipend payments, right? I mean, now you're talking about the the office of the comptroller and your legal contractual responsibilities and financial responsibilities and payment of stipends. And under an audit, can you justify the amount that you paid the participant, high or low, right? You can't underpay somebody if they've met the attendance requirements and performance requirements, and you can't overpay them. So it has to be right on to the dollar. So that attendance data, extremely important. We talk about seeing incorrect participant names. We need the name as it appears on their legal documents, typically their state ID or their driver's license, ideally their driver's license. Um, those are going to follow them on to your like a first aid CPR card or an OSHA 10 construction card. If they are a year from now, they graduate from your program and they're on a construction site and they're working and there's an accident and they need to provide, an OSHA inspector with their certification, it needs to match. It needs to be the right name. So we take very seriously using legal names and on official documentation, and that has to be entered correctly into IWRS. I have to say it. That means, the first letter of the first name is capitalized. The first letter of the last name is capitalized, right? And the other letters are lowercase. It needs to be properly entered into IWRS. Delayed data entry. And I should also say delayed data correction, right? Not to steal the thunder from our, we're going to be holding a Toolbox Tuesday where we talk about how to ace compliance. But compliance is the validation of this data. So this topic goes hand in hand. And and so if you haven't entered the data correctly the first time, it will be flagged by your grant manager during compliance. And then, making sure that you enter it correctly, that second time around, and don't delay entering it, is extremely important, especially given the time of year with the fiscal shutdown looming. Kicking the can down the road um, hurts your organization, because all of these data validations again go toward your financial reimbursement maximum, right? Being able to verify enrollment eligibility for each of your participants is critical to your organization's financial health and success. And then, like I said, we even look at that down the road in August, September, October, to whether or not your organization will be invited to participate the following year. Um, Incomplete documentation. I kind of touched on that already. Sometimes we see missing signatures or a missing date. Um, a lot of times we see a font signature rather than an actual digitally verified signature or a wet signature. We don't accept just a font signature on most documents. So making sure that things are filled out completely and accurately, that's also a big common error that we see. And then incorrect IWRS participant status designations. So they're outlined in the grantee manual. Know and understand what it means to be an administrative withdrawal. It does not mean that the person dropped out of your program or withdrew from your program. Um, uh, it is a very defined meaning. I'm not going to jump into it right now, but making sure you understand what it means to be an incomplete participant, what it means to be in enrolled status, what it means to be in complete status versus complete and in transition. Those are all really important, and they affect your financial reimbursement maximum and your overall organization's compliance. Um, I already because they go kind of hand in hand. I already touched on these quite a bit. It can delay reimbursement. The compliance flags will give you the information that you need to fix on a monthly basis any data errors, and those have to be taken care of. Um, uh, Audit risks. This is really important. Inaccurate records increase exposure during audits. And in fact, that is why many of the documents that we require are part of our overall monthly compliance. We actually are doing it so that grantees will successfully pass audits. We've had organizations in the past that were not keeping accurate documents, and then a year or two later, they were audited, but not by the Office of Illinois Works, but by the internal to the state, Office of Accountability or Office of Internal Audits, um, and they didn't have the records they were supposed to. So we've changed things over the years to ensure that we're having grantees upload that information into the IWRS, so there's no question. If they're audited, it's all right there for them. That does not relieve you the responsibility of maintaining your paper participant file. So there are still things that you're going to have in your participant file that we're not going to have in IWRS. A good example of that would be post assessments, right? We do require you to enter the post assessment score in IWRS, but those post assessments, if you have a performance one for, say, the construction lab, hands-on tools, those are observational assessments done by a construction instructor. Uh, you have to have a record of that. Those have to be retained. Other post assessments that are for organizations that use NCCR, those post assessments are done online through NCCR system, but you will still wind up having training modules that are external to that, such as maybe your employability skills, your sexual harassment prevention type courses. Those have to have post assessments, and you have to retain those records. So, but having correct and accurate data reduces your audit risks. And then program performance. Again, the poor data undermines everything we're doing, not only with your grant through the Illinois Works Peer Apprenticeship Program, but throughout the entire Office of Illinois Works. And our goal of ensuring that we're bringing about equity into the construction industry and providing the state of Illinois with a healthy pipeline of construction workers in the future. So best practices for success, entering data daily, having consistent methods of entering data and validating that data. So validate that data, before the next compliance pull, ensuring that that you have a routine for checking your data and ensuring that it's being entered and uploaded properly. We've had before program administrators scratching their heads in September and October, saying, "Well, why aren't we receiving the reimbursements for this funding?" And it's because their performance side has been kicking the can down the road. We told an organization back in June, hey, you need to re-upload all of your commitment agreements, and they haven't done it yet. So they haven't received any verifications. Um, so, sorry, I had a external call coming in here on my Teams. Communicating with instructors. Jeff had pointed out earlier that the data entry coordinators are responsible for the integrity of the entire life cycle of the program. You touch data, or data is accumulated and typically entered into IWS in all of the phases, starting with your outreach and recruitment, going all the way through post-program follow-up, and determining where a grantee is in their career plan. But right in the middle of it, communicating with instructors, ensuring that you have accurate data from the cohort on a daily and weekly basis. And then tracking deadlines, ensuring that when this training module ends, when does that training module end, when was the wraparound service supposed to be completed, or that barrier reduction support provided to a participant. So it says here, high performing programs treat data entry as a daily discipline. Right? It is not something that just occurs or you just do naturally, organically. Having a set regimen is the key to that success. Okay, key takeaways. So this is a mission critical role, the data entry coordinator. Hopefully I'm sure I've beaten that horse. Hopefully we've made that crystal clear, that it's an entire section in the grantee manual. It is critical to everything you do and to financial success and the renewal of your grant. All of the systems are interconnected. We use data in everything that the Office of Illinois Works does, outside of just the pre-apprenticeship program. But even within the pre-apprenticeship program, all of these systems are connected. Let's see. The accuracy drives the outcomes, right? We need to see this information entered accurately into IWS to see and verify the success, to see that this wraparound service was successfully completed, to see that this student support service, this makeup test was successfully given to an individual. And consistency, right? You want to be consistent in this because, if you are only checking things on a bi-monthly basis or an at random basis, you're not going to catch things before your compliance, monthly compliance, and then you're going to have the issues, possibly even including, going into a monitoring with Illinois Works. So you definitely want to avoid that. All right, I think we're at the questions and answers. So we're just about done. If you have any questions, you could have placed them in the chat. I think everyone's on mute, so I'm not sure if you can ask a question, if we can take you off mute, but that's certainly an option.
Dan, we don't have any questions in the chat, but definitely I'll unmute everyone right now.
Okay, we'll give it just another second then. Did anyone have any questions? I think you can, looks like, Brittany, you have a timeline question?
Right. And she's unmuted if she wants to join and speak. It's fine.
I speak?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was going to type all that out. My question was regarding like the time. I know obviously having a system that says on this day I'm doing compliance, I'm checking and things like that. But are there specific items that are required to be uploaded to IWRS within the 24 to 48 hours? I feel like I saw that in the manual, but I don't know if I was clear on that.
Yeah, the grantee manual does occasionally call out a specific timeline for specific items. One that comes to mind is the the orientation career assessment,
Hmm.
I think, has um, a 24-hour timeline. There, that is because the orientation career assessment, the wraparound assessment, the commitment agreement, those documents are meant to be completed um, before or during the orientation.
Okay.
Uh, to give a little history, a quick history, orientation originally back in 2022 when this program started was kind of like a recommended um, start to a program, but it wasn't an official start of the cohort. The cohort started essentially the next day. But those documents are so important, and that's why you see that 24-hour rule that the Office of Illinois Works actually said, you know what, we're going to make orientation a required component. We are going to pay stipends for the attendance of it, and it's an official part of the cohort. So for most programs, it should be the very first day of your cohort. You
Okay.
have orientation, and so that's where that 24-hour timeline comes in, because we want to see those entered right away. Um, and there's no reason why, if it is part of your orientation and you are collecting that data, that it can't be put into IWRS. So again, that just kind of follows into that real time assessment where we're saying, enter the data in real time. And for most other documents, if it's within that week, that's fine.
Okay. All right, that sounds fair. And then that orientation, once these documents are done and things like that, that is officially when the status goes to from applicant to enrolled.
That's correct. So
Okay.
when a person is when you've offered them a position in your cohort in the program, um, they are still an applicant. It's not until they first attend that first meeting, first class of the cohort, which again is typically orientation. That's when they become an enrollee. They fill out all that information, and then they're good to go. To kind of put that in perspective, if they never show up, I kind of alluded to this, we'll call it foreshadowing early on. If they never show up, that's when they become an administrative withdrawal. An administrative withdrawal, like I said, it was a very specific definition. That means that they were invited to attend, they were qualified, eligible to attend, but they didn't attend. So it's not a bad thing. It's actually telling us like, hey, this person is good and ready to go. All they have to do is actually come back, and they can rejoin the next cohort within a year, and so they can become an administrative or that's when they become an administrative withdrawal. But yes, go back to your question. When they attend that first day, they become enrolled, and that's when you can move them to enrolled in IWRS.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions in the chat or live?
No,
Doesn't
sir.
sound like it.
No questions in the chat.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right, I will turn it on over to Carlita.
Thank you, Dan. So give me a second here, and we're going to get ready for our evaluation. As you can see on your screen, there's a QR code available to you. I'm going to actually go up to a previous one so that we can get the accurate code number. If you all don't mind real quickly. It should take me a few seconds. Here we go. So if you are able to, go ahead and click the continue button on the right-hand side of your screen so that you can participate in this evaluation. And if you want, you can do it a couple of ways. You could scan the QR code and follow those procedures, click the continue button, or you can go to menti.com and press in the code number 49075700. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to get into the system, because the more we have in there, the more information we can gather from you. And while you're doing that, I'm going to switch over to Mentimeter now. Okay. Give you a few more seconds to get in. I see 4 people are in the room. I'm not sure how many people are participants we have in there today, but give you a few more seconds for anyone who's still trying to get in. And this will be a very quick evaluation, so we'll go ahead and get started. You've already done this in the chat, but for the purpose of our evaluation, can you go ahead and enter your name, your organization, and the programs that you instruct? All right. Did I get anyone to participate? There we go. We have Brittany McPherson from Ascending Knowledge. We have is it Razan, Rocky Hubbard from EDDR? Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I believe we have 2 participants in here today, so we'll go on. Please share your views on this meeting by rating the following statements from 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest. To what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely you are to attend a similar event in the future? And how likely you are to recommend this community of practice to others? So you can go ahead and rate those 3 areas. All right, thank you. We have 1 response. Let's see if we can get another response. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. The meeting was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter, from strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree. And as answers come in, these categories will shift around a little bit. So don't worry about that. We just want your feedback to see how you were able to make sure that this was relevant information for you. All right, we have 1 response. Thank you for that. Is there another? Before we move on to the next question, I'm going to give everybody a chance to give their input. This is valuable information for us, so I want to give you a chance to do that. All right, let's move on to the next question. I plan to apply what I learned. Same categories from strongly disagree to strongly agree. There was a lot of good information provided today on the DEC and the role of the DEC. So your response to this question is going to be very valuable to us. All right, thank you. What improvement might you recommend? So was there anything in this session today that you think we could add to make it even better? What would you recommend? And I think another way to put that is, if there was anything missing that you probably wish you had heard about, what would that look like? So what improvements? Here's examples maybe. Okay, thank you. That's a good idea. Anything else? All right, so let's go on to our next question. So what did you find effective? We talked about a lot of different things, a lot of different do's and don'ts, but what did you find effective? If we make any changes, what would you recommend that we keep? And this would be like the thing that resonated the most with you, something that you thought, oh, wow, that was some good information. I'm going to write that down. What was the most effective part of this presentation for you? And if you didn't feel that you needed to make any recommendations, go ahead and put NA. I have one that says pointing out where information can be found in the manual. Yes. That's very important. But keep in mind, these manuals change every year. So what may be on this presentation in a recording next year will probably be a different thing, a different page number. Any other responses for this question before we move on? All right, thank you. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? Anything at all? And if not, you can go ahead and put NA as a response so we'll know that we were giving you a chance to answer. Very good. Well, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here in this program, in this session today of Communities of Practice, and we look forward to you being in our next one. Have a good evening or afternoon, everyone.